I go by Lili, and I have the privilege of serving as the director for the Undocumented Student Program here at Berkeley, and I'm currently also serving as the interim Latinx Thriving Initiatives Implementation Director. I'm so thrilled to be here on behalf of the Division of Equity and Inclusion on campus, and I have a lot of joy, and it's with a lot of anticipation that I welcome you all today. So I'd like for us to give each other a round of applause, as well as to our panelists today. And some of you may be hearing the word thriving or thriving initiatives for the first time within the Berkeley context. The working goal of thriving is for our campus to develop a holistic approach to serving so every member of our communities, staff, students, faculty, and alumni feel like they belong at Berkeley by eliminating barriers, supporting inclusive practices, and honoring intersectionality. In other words, thriving is equity in action and a framework where we can build, connect, ask tough questions, find solutions, and grow together. Tonight's event will give us a lens for how leadership and community are core ingredients towards thriving. We have the privilege of honoring some of the most remarkable leaders and advocates of our time, whose dedication has paved the way for so much positive change within the Latinx communities. Tonight, we come together not only to celebrate their experiences, but also to reflect on the challenges that still persist and discuss how we could continue their legacies for years to come. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our esteemed speakers and panelists. We are truly honored to have them share their insights with us this evening.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a todos. I'm Laura Perez, I'm the chair of the University of California, Berkeley's Latinx Research Center, an interdisciplinary and Trans-America's research hub. I'm very pleased to also welcome you to today's event, Walking Through History, Activism, and Labor and Health, featuring Ruth Martinez, former UFW nurse, Yolanda Chacon-Serna, community organizer, Roberto Bustos, el Capitan, community organizer, Lupe Martinez, community organizer, and the internationally recognized and historic figure, the labor and civil rights activist Dolores Huerta. This afternoon's panel is organized by the Center for the Critical Study of the Health of Latinx Communities, a research initiative of the Latinx Research Center led by Dr. Clara Mantini-Briggs, MD, and Professor Charles Briggs, with administrative assistance by postdoctoral fellow Carolina Talavera. The Center for the Critical Study of the Health of Latinx Communities is a project that documents the rich history and contributions of Latinx-based social movements to justice in health. Some of this new research initiative's important work includes the studies of Latinos and COVID as it affected students on this campus and their families. Today's event brings to light, uplifts, and serves to document historically significant activism in labor and health on behalf of Latinx working communities of California. Now I would like to introduce Professor Charles Briggs. Professor Briggs is an interdisciplinary anthropologist and the Alan Dundes Distinguished Professor in Folkloristics in the Department of Anthropology here at UC Berkeley. He's the author of numerous books, including the co-authored book, Tell Me Why My Children Died, about a viral epidemic among indigenous community in Venezuela, which was co-authored with Dr. Clara Mantini-Briggs. And most recently, he's author of Unlearning, Rethinking Poetics, Pandemics, and the Politics of Knowledge. He's a respected colleague, a scholar and social activist, and a beloved teacher. It is my pleasure to present him to you now.
Que gusto. Increíble. I want to start by acknowledging that UC Berkeley sits on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded lands of the Cocheño Ohlone. The land continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. Every member of the Berkeley community has benefited and continues to benefit from the occupation of this land. We have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's well-troubled relationship to Indigenous peoples. We affirm Indigenous sovereignty and demand the university demonstrate accountability to the needs of Indigenous peoples and other oppressed peoples. I could not feel more honored to join a remarkable group of leaders and activists who have inspired us for over half a century. Academic institutions often erect walls, whether material or symbolic, in attempts to hide from the struggles going on around them and in making ivory tower claims for scholarly clairvoyance. What are so often lost are not just possibilities for contributing to efforts to forge better worlds, but for learning from people whose lives are dedicated to exposing injustices and carrying on daily struggles to confront them. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed for privileged white people what Latinx, Black, and Native American communities know all too well, that inequities and injustices are experienced in the body, as much heavier burdens of disease and death fall on people racialized as non-white. It is thus vitally important, I think, to build coalitions designed not just to break down sections of this wall, but to create egalitarian, collaborative exchanges of knowledge. And this is the spirit that gave birth to the Center for the Critical Study of the Health of Latinx Communities. I admit it's kind of a mouthful, but it grew out of the energy centered in the Latinx Research Center and the remarkable generosity of its chair, Laura Perez, in inviting colleagues to forge dreams about new ways of researching and working together. I had the honor of working with a valiant public health, Venezuelan-born public health physician, Dr. Clara Montini-Briggs, in finding a way to highlight this little-known histories of how Latinx social movements have contributed to tackling the weight of health inequities in racialized and oppressed communities and forming new visions of health for all. The contributions of Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and Philip Veracruz in founding the United Farm Workers and fighting for workers' rights and fighting against labor exploitation in the fields continues to inspire new generations of activists around the globe. We will have the amazing opportunity to listen to Dolores Huerta speak to us shortly. Many know about the heroic grapes boycotts, the marches from Delano to Sacramento and the strikes, but what about UFW's clinic? What about the struggle to provide farm workers with access to respectful, quality health care? To demand an end to exposure to toxics in the fields? What about the chapter of Chicano history centering on the founding of La Clínica de la Raza in 1971 by UC Berkeley students, and efforts to provide solidary medical, mental health care, and other services to racialized low-income populations? Journalists rightly highlighted the dreadful impact of the pandemic on Latinx populations, but what about the way that community-based organizations informed farm workers about COVID-19 prevention and made vaccines and protective equipment available to them in the fields, including people who were forced to keep working even when they told their bosses they had COVID-19 symptoms? This dream became the Center for the Critical Study of the Health of Latinx Peoples. Our goal is to work with Latinx-based social movement organizations to help them document their own histories as they see fit, including as they are unfolding today, and to make them publicly available so that these histories can inspire new generations of activists and help people who faced these racialized barriers to healthcare know that it just ain't right and it ain't necessary to be denied care. A related goal is to build bridges to enable new generations of UC Berkeley students to learn from these inspiring leaders, even as they interview them and work to document these struggles. We also want to collectively storm the walls of the university by bringing people who have forged new visions and done the hard work of turning them into concrete actions to Berkeley to spark conversatorios, egalitarian exchanges between all of us, students, faculty, staff, community members. Inspired by conversations with these amazing figures today, we want to pass along that opportunity to listen to them, to all of you. This event has confirmed that recognition of the importance of building bridges of exchange and solidarity runs deep here at UC Berkeley. We receive support from the Berkeley Center for Social Medicine, the Center for Race and Gender, the Departments of Anthropology, Gender and Women's Studies, and Sociology, the Health Disparities Cluster of the Othering and Belonging Institute, the Division of Equity and Inclusion, the School of Public Health, and the Dean of the Division of the Social Sciences. We thank our partners for help joining us in building a coalition that reaches across campus and across California, that centers on respect, knowledge exchange, transformation, and justice. And you, by honoring us with your presence today, have demonstrated that you're part of this process. Now, in a moment, I will introduce Dr. Montini-Briggs, the driving force behind this event and the center, who will then introduce the participants in the panel. The event will conclude with the center's postdoctoral scholar, Dr. Carolina Talavera, presenting the participants with just a small symbol of our recognition of their contributions to health and justice. Clara Montini-Briggs, first-generation college student, oldest of 9 in a working-class family, became a physician coming from a small town in Venezuela, in a country like this one where only about 10% of doctors are from the working class. She gave up a lucrative medical practice to work with indigenous people in rainforest areas. She worked in the middle of cholera and other epidemics that were just killing people. The person who was out there in the middle of them trying to stop the epidemic and stop the injustice. She then went on and got a public health, a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins University, and she became the director of the dengue fever program for the country Venezuela under President Hugo Chavez Frias. She has published widely. She has won many prizes for her scholarship. She has inspired generations of Berkeley students through her classes, and she is the co-director of the center. And I'm very pleased to now turn over the podium to her. A round of applause for Clara Montini-Briggs.
Well, thank you for being here. We, the organizers and the panelists, I will ask you for a big applause for these beautiful people that are here accompanying us. Please, an applause for them. We have a slight change in the order of our event, and I will give pass to Dr. Laura Perez. She will introduce Dolores Huerta, and what we will do is, after Dr. Laura Perez, I will introduce the other panelists with all my respect and love for you guys. And after that, the panel will begin to Dolores Huerta. I think we wanted to hear what she can say as a speaker of honor. And then we will have a panel where all our distinguished people here will tell the stories and what keeps them going. Because the beautiful thing of this special people is not only that they are Latinx, that they are Chicanos, that they represent our desire of changing. It's that they still going. And this is a big example for all of us. Luchando por la causa y seguimos. La lucha sigue y estamos todos en ella. Así que un aplauso, Laura, por favor.
So I'm back at the podium with a lot of pleasure to introduce Dolores Huerta to you, and then my colega Doctora Clara Mantini-Briggs will continue introducing the rest of the panel. Like where to begin, right? If you look at the wiki page, it's so long, right? And to just do a little seems wrong, right? And so the temptation is like to put as much as possible. And so I want to just share like some highlights from, you know, the impossibility of narrating an entire lifetime dedicated to social justice. So let me dig in here. Dolores Huerta was born on April 10th, 1930, in the mining town of Dawson, New Mexico. Her father, Juan Fernandez, was born to a Mexican immigrant family and worked as a coal miner and later as a migrant laborer. In 1938, he served in the New Mexico legislature, and she was raised with two brothers by her mother, Alicia Chavez, in Stockton, California. According to an interview, her mother's generous actions as a restaurant and hotel owner during Huerta's childhood provided the foundation for her own life of nonviolent and strongly spiritual activism. Her community activism began at Stockton High School and continued when she attended the University of the Pacific Stockton's College, which later became the San Joaquin Delta Community College. She moved from teaching to direct activism, saying, I couldn't tolerate seeing kids come to class hungry and needing shoes. I thought I could do more by organizing farm workers than by trying to teach their hungry children. In 1955, Huerta, along with Fred Ross, co-founded and organized the Stockton chapter of the CSO, the Community Service Organization, which fought for economic improvements for Latino, Mexicano, Chicano, and other migrant farm workers. In 1960, Huerta co-founded the Agricultural Workers Association, which set up voter registration drives and pressed local government for barrio community improvements. In 1962, she co-founded with Cesar Chavez the National Farm Workers Association, which would later become the United Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee. Dolores Huerta was the only woman to ever sit on the board of the UFW until 2018. In 1965, she directed the UFW's national boycott during the Delano grape strike and led negotiation for a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the California table grape industry and the UFW in 1970. In 1966, she negotiated a contract between the UFW OC and the Schenley Wine Company, marking the first time that farm workers were able to effectively bargain with an agricultural enterprise. In addition to organizing, Huerta was and has been active in lobbying for laws to improve the lives of farm workers. Some of the laws that she supported include the 1960 bill to permit Spanish-speaking people to take the California driver's license exam in Spanish. In 1962, legislation repealing the Bracero program. In 1963, legislation to extend the federal program of aid to families with dependent children for California farm workers. And in 1975, the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act. She's received numerous awards for this community service and her advocacy for workers, for immigrants, and for women's rights, including the U.S. Presidential Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She was the first Latina inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993. She also was awarded Mexico's highest award to foreign nationals, the Order of the Aztec Eagle. She also received a Presidential Medal for Freedom from former President Barack Obama in 2012. Huerta was named one of the 3 most important women of the year in 1997 by the feminist Ms. magazine. She was the inaugural recipient of the Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights from former President Bill Clinton in 1998. She's been recognized as one of the 100 most important women of the 20th century, along with women like Mother Teresa, Margaret Thatcher, Rosa Parks, and Indira Gandhi. Huerta is the originator of the phrase "Si se puede," widely popularized by President Barack Obama, helped him win, right? Translation, yes, we can. In California, April 10th, her birthday is Dolores Huerta Day. So let's welcome and honor, show our appreciation for the great Dolores Huerta once again.
¡Viva la jefa!
Que vivan las jefas. Yeah, we are really proud to be here. It's an incredible moment for us here at UC Berkeley. We're so proud to be here with you, Dolores, and with all of you at this panel who are historic warriors and without whom we would not be here at University of California right now, right here. So gracias, y les paso ahora el micrófono a mi colega, la doctora Clara Mantini Briggs, para que ella continúe introduciendo el resto del panel. Gracias.
Me parece que quieres decir algo.
No, I just want to thank you very much for the applause and the ovation. And, you know, everything that I have been able to work on, I've been very blessed. It was never Dolores. It was always a lot of people that did the work, like the people that are sitting here on this panel with me. The farm workers who lost their lives in the movement. You know, we have 5 people that were killed in the farm worker movement just trying to get the basic human necessities that farm workers needed to work out in the field. So, you know, I stand on the backs and the shoulders of so many, many people that struggled just to get the basic human rights for farm workers. And as you all know, that struggle still continues, right? But I want to thank you very much for that ovation. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Well, we are continuing with the introduction. And we have here, you know, like, I am really thrilled that those people are here. They don't know how proud I feel to have you here. It's because of you students. New generation, we need you. We need you to follow those steps. But I won't say more. I will introduce now, and I want an applause for Ruth Martinez. And I will say, Ruth.
¡Sí se puede!
Let me please to say something about Ruth that you need to know before she speaks. Ruth Martinez, originally from Green River, Wyoming, found her calling as a community organizer in Ducor, San Joaquin Valley. Her journey into activism began through her marriage to an United farm worker involved farm worker, driven by the harsh field condition and health impact of pesticide on her daughter. Encouraged by Cesar Chavez, Ruth pursued nursing, dedicating 30 years to the profession while actively participating in United Farm Workers March. After moving to Ducor, Ruth tackled water supply challenges, leading successful campaign to transition to community ownership. She continued her activism by advocating for clean water access, pesticide buffer zone, and Sequoia, sorry, my English, you can bear with me, well, how can I pronounce that? Sewage, okay, sewage, thank you. Sewage line installation. Ahora sí, un aplauso para Ruth.
I want to say thank you for everything, and I was blessed and honored to serve with Cesar and Dolores. I was with the union when I was 17 years old, and I turned 81 a couple of weeks ago. When I was a teenager, I used to get seizures, epileptic seizures, and I always wanted to be a nurse, and they told me I would never be able to be a nurse because of my seizures. And I went to the meeting at the 40 acres in Delano, and I was talking to Cesar, and I told him, I said, I always wanted to be a nurse. And he says, why aren't you? I said, because I can't. And you never told Dolores or Cesar, I can't. You had to do it. He says, why can't you? I said, because I get seizures, and they won't let me work in a hospital. And when I became a nurse after talking to Cesar. He says, you can be anything you want to be. As long as you try, you can be it. So I started as a nursing assistant at the Delano 40 acres clinic, and then I went into college and got my degree as a nurse, and I became a nurse. I was a nurse for 35 years. Wow. After they said, after they had told me I would not be able to be a nurse, I was for 35 years when I retired. And I had my second daughter, and she was born with only one kidney and none of her female organs. And she passed away in 2010, and it was devastating for me. And I swore then and there that I would support the union, their bills, their pesticide program, everything. And that's when I really got involved in everything. And I just want to thank everybody for the privilege of being here today. I want to thank Dolores Huerta for being here with me today. And I know Cesar and Josefina Flores, which was one of my colleagues in the union, are with me up there in heaven also, because I learned from them everything I know today about the union. I learned from them. And I want to thank everybody for the privilege of being here today and being honored with Dolores and the rest of the panel. Thank you so much for everything.
Okay, this is getting really, really nice here. Well, now I have the pleasure to introduce Roberto Bustos, El Capitan. And you can see Roberto. Woo! ¡Que viva! Okay. Roberto Bustos, born in Eloy, Arizona, overcame a challenge of bringing working in the fields, starting at the age of 10, and later moved to California with his family in search of a better life. Inspired by a meeting with Cesar Chavez, Roberto and his brother became passionate advocates for farm workers' rights. At just 23 years old, he became the leader of the historic March to Sacramento, and you can see the pictures in front of you, in 1966, which started with 77 participants and grew over to 1,500 by the time they reached the state capitol. Beyond his role in the United Farm Workers, Roberto dedicated over 3 decades, bear with my English again, to promoting community health in Tulare County, focusing on HIV and STD prevention among farm workers. His life stands as a testament to unwavering commitment to justice and equity for farm workers and community health. Now, applause.
Thank you. Gracias, gracias por el honor y el honor de estar aquí con ustedes. Thank you for the honor and for me to be here with you guys today. I know it's a long day, we traveled a lot, 4-hour drive to come over here. That's good, but I'm glad I'm here and to talk to you. So you want me to go ahead and start, or?
No, just say some word we will reserve. Okay. Did you finish?
Yeah,
Okay.
Gracias.
Un aplauso para Roberto, por favor. And now we will have the pleasure of presenting Yolanda Chacon-Serna. Yolanda, growing up, Yolanda, me estoy adelantando. I am getting ahead. Please, another applause to Yolanda. You deserve it. Woo!
¡Se puede!
Okay. Yolanda, growing up in the 60s in Delano, California, was immersed in a culture of activism from a young age, which paved the way for her decades-long journey as a labor organizer and community advocate. At just 7 years old, can you imagine? 7 years old, she participated in Cesar Chavez's historic march from Delano to Sacramento alongside her activist mother, setting the stage for her tireless advocacy for farm workers' rights. As a labor organizer, Yolanda has worked with AFL-CIO, American Federation of Labor, and Congress of Industrial Organization, one of the largest and most influential labor federation in the United States, reflecting her unwavering commitment to workers' rights and her dedication to creating better working conditions for laborers across various industries. As a passionate healthcare advocate, she served as a board secretary of OME Family Health, a federally funded network of healthcare centers providing primary and preventative healthcare to individuals and families across the Kern, King, Tulare, and Fresno County. A big applause for Yolanda.
Pues muchas gracias a todos. I'm very proud and happy to be here with you. I'm here because the people at this table, my mother and my neighbors, gave me the strength and the courage. And one thing that I always remember is something in the farm worker prayer. Enséñame el sufrimiento de los más desafortunados. Así conoceré el dolor de mi pueblo. That is what inspires me and keeps me advocating and fighting for our community and wanting to reach out and make sure young people like you stay in the room or in these conversations. Thank you for being here. It's my honor. I stand on the shoulders of all my ancestors. Thank you.
And now what I said. I will be democratic here. I am going to ask the panelists if you wanted to begin the conversation of your experience, or Dolores can talk first and tell us about her experience first, and then all the panelists can talk. Are you in agreement? You wanted to hear Dolores Huerta?
Well, again, thank you very much for having me join this panel today and to be here with all of the people that have sacrificed to make life better for farm workers. Although we know, as I said before, that the struggle is not over yet, we still have a lot of work to do to bring farm workers. And I just want to say this, during the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about essential workers. I'm sure you saw that on television. Who are the essential workers? Of course, the healthcare workers are essential workers. The police are essential workers. The firemen are essential workers. But when we think of all of these professions, then we think of who are the most essential workers, because who feeds the firemen and the healthcare workers and the police? It's the farm workers. They're the ones that feed all of us. And even during the pandemic, while a lot of us worked from home, the farm workers couldn't work from home. They had to be out there in the field every single day, gathering the food that we could keep on eating. I don't know, often we don't think about that. People think of the food as at the grocery store. And so many farm workers, we lost many farm workers who lost their lives during the pandemic. Many companies wouldn't provide them the essential, the preventative equipment that they needed, And so they suffered very, very harshly. So we want, I think, keep working to the day when farm workers can have the same protections as essential workers, when they can have the same salaries as a policeman. Wouldn't that be nice? And the firemen, The benefits when farm workers, unless they're covered by a union contract, they don't have any kind of a retirement. Their bodies are pretty much finished when they retire, and yet they have Social Security. But we know that that's not enough for people to live on. So we have to keep on fighting for farm workers so they can get the equity that they deserve after all of these years of struggle. And I'm just very blessed that I was able to do work with the UFW and make some of those groundbreaking achievements that we were able to accomplish. And in the introduction, it was mentioned that before Cesar and I started the United Farm Workers, that we belonged to another organization. It was called the Community Service Organization. And we actually had a chapter here in Oakland and one in San Francisco. I guess we should have one in Berkeley. We missed out here. But the reason I'm mentioning that organization is because all of the things that we learned in the CSO, we brought to the United Farm Workers. And one of those lessons that is really basic to what we're going through today in today's world, where we are now fighting fascism in our country, is the idea of civic engagement. The fact that people had to be engaged and involved in voting. There was actually an Anglo man that taught Cesar, myself, and many organizers how to organize. His name was Fred Ross Sr. And what he taught us is that you have to organize people, you have to educate them and make them understand that they have the power to actually solve the problems that they face in their community, okay? And the poor people, people that never went to high school or elementary school, that don't have a college degree, that they have the power. Many of the farmers, they never had opportunities to get other careers. Nobody's going to come in on a white horse to solve the issues for them. And so with this lesson that we learned in CSO that Fred Ross taught us, then that's how Cesar and I organized the farm workers, to let them know that they had the power to change their conditions. And it wasn't overnight. Sometimes when people see that movie about Cesar Chavez, they look like he walked into the field and everybody went on strike. And it didn't happen like that. We actually had to have meetings, house by house, family by family, for 3 years before that strike took place. But the reason I say this, because it's not complicated. It's just time-consuming that we have to talk to people and make them understand that the way that we solve issues in our country is through the democratic process, okay? The democratic process. And I say this because in today's world, we have many young people, and I've had young people come up to me and say, oh, what else can we do besides voting? And I say, no, this is the only game in town. This is the only game in town. Because when we vote, when we become activists in voting and organizing people to vote, we elect the people that are going to represent us. And those people that we elect are the ones that are going to decide, they're going to make up policies that will govern us. We have to live by the laws that they pass. And so that's how we have to make sure that we are informed, that we're organized, and that we get out there and make sure that those progressive people are elected. Now, I know, like here in the Bay Area, often people think, oh, hey, we have good representation, no? We have Barbara Lee, in the Senate right now, in the U.S. Senate. And so, but I can tell you down in the Valley where we work, where Robert works, and Yolanda and Ruth over here, we had Kevin McCarthy, okay? You know who that is, right? Everybody knows that. The recent Speaker of the House that was brought down. Anyway, but but then when we look at what's happening in our own country, again, the House of Representatives, how there's no governance there right now, and the people that are in charge right now, they want to take away food stamps from poor people. They're against immigration reform. All of the things that all of us stand for, they're against. They're election deniers. They don't believe that President Biden won the election. Those are the kind of people that are right now in control of our House of Representatives. So, and then we see what's happening in the Middle East, and that's a lack of governance too. That's a lack of governance, I would say, on both sides. This idea, how do we keep our democracy? How do we keep our democracy? And the way we keep our democracy is by voting. So, we did the strike, we did the national boycott, because even with people striking and being on the picket lines, as Robert knows, day after day after day, they would bring in strike breakers to break our strikes. So then we had to go to the American public and say, could you help us? And so we asked people to boycott grapes. Don't eat grapes. Don't shop at stores that sell grapes, We got 17 million Americans to stop eating grapes, okay? 17 million Americans, and that is how we won. But even after we won the strike and we got the growers to sit down and negotiate, and then we got the toilets in the fields, and we call cold drinking water, rest periods, we had to go to the legislature because we had to pass a law that would make it sure in a law, in writing, that farm workers could have protections when they try to form a union, okay? That if they try to fire them because they're organizing, that employer would be punished, and he would have to pay a fine. And then we had to have a law to make sure that those toilets and that cold drinking water was in a law that would make sure that would be implemented. And if they didn't put the toilets in the drinking water, that people would be held accountable. So even after all of the work that we did, we had to go to the legislature, and we had to get the governor to sign a law that this would happen. It was then Governor Jerry Brown. And the reason I'm saying all of this, because it's so important that you as students and people that are here understand that democracy is hard work, okay? It's hard, it's hard work. And so it's not just about, the movement of building that we have to do, the protesting on the ground with people, but then we've got to take it to the ballot box and get good people elected. And then we've got to make sure that the people that we support, that they're good people and that they're progressives, and they want the same things that we want. And then we've got to stay on top of them to make sure that they do the job that they're supposed to do. And that is even at the school board level, you know, city council level, and of course, at the state level also. And it's kind of an all-around picture, but it's so important that people understand that we have to do that democracy work that Cesar and I learned from the great Fred Ross Sr. that we brought to the United Farm Workers, and that finally we were able to accomplish some of the goals that we wanted to accomplish to bring some rights to farm workers. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede, 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 sí se puede. Gracias. Sí se puede. Entonces, sí, claro que sí. Ahora, let's listen to the other panelists. Ruth Martinez began to tell her story about, you know, she lost a daughter because of the complication of pesticides in, you know, in her body. And she have many experience. But one that I like a lot is the experience of a nurse going to the march, helping the marchistas, the people who were marching, and all the story that she has to tell. I won't say anything more. Ruth, the floor is yours.
Yes, I was honored all the time when the UFW would call me to ask me if I could join them on a march, that they were going to Sacramento, they were going somewhere else to Los Angeles or something, and that they needed a nurse. And I was so proud that I could say, yeah, I'll go because I can do whatever it needs to be done. And I took care of a lot of the farmers' feet when they got blistered and everything, and all the people that passed out because of the heat or the struggle. And Cesar always said, if you struggle and you fight for what you want, no one can take anything away from you. And that's true. I learned that from very young age, that as long as I worked and I struggled and tried, I would be able to do whatever I wanted to do. And I wanted to help the farm workers. I wanted to do everything I could to help them get ahead. And he also said, you cannot unlearn someone that's learned how to speak, someone that's learned how to try everything. We tried everything and we succeeded to the point. But like Dolores said, it's not over. We need to keep going even more now, because the way this world is turning, it's awful. We need to fight and be strong in our way. And you as young people can fight so much better than we can now. We did it in our days, you do it in your days, because you can.
Thank you, Ruth. Let's go now with Roberto. Roberto, what can you tell us, you know, directing the march?
Okay, yeah. First of all, let me say this. In remembrance of Mexican Independence Day, September 16, 1965, El Grito, the cry that was heard around the world was huelga, huelga, huelga. In 1965, September 16, Delano, we went on strike. And that's El Grito. That to me is El Grito de huelga, huelga, huelga. That's what happened back then. Let me tell you something, guys, that probably you don't know. In 1935, listen to this, 1935, Congress passed the law, the National Labor Relations Act, which gave millions and millions of workers the right to organize. You have a right to organize, and they cannot stop you. You have the right to belong to a union of your choice through secret ballot election. And also this, listen to this. You have the right to meet with your employer, your boss, the company, and talk about wages, better wages, more wages for you to support your family. And also a health plan. Hey, you know, insurance for the family, for you, when you're working in the fields. In 1935, this law passed, and it covered millions of workers. But at the bottom of that law, it said, except farm workers. What? I asked Cesar, why, Cesar? We were left out. He said, mira, Roberto, farm workers don't have any friends in Congress. Farm workers don't have anyone to fight for them. This is why we're here. This is why we have to do what we have to do. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. The farm workers didn't have any rights. And that's still true to some places, some time around. So when we started the strike in Delano, wow, that was something. It was an experience for all of us. Going against the richest industry, the powerful industry in the nation, the table grape growers in Delano, California. We were out there every day from sun up to sundown, picketing, talking to workers, organizing them. Come out on strike, please. Don't break the strike. Come out and let us win, and then you can go back and work where you have more rights. You have better wages and better working conditions and better treatment. So we did that for 5 years. 5 years we did that. And we were not getting paid. We had no more money because we were on strike. We lived in donations, guys, and donations. People were donating food. They were donating clothes. Every month somebody would bring in something, and this is how we lived. And with a lot of people just like you guys were helping. So 4 months after the strike started, Cesar came to us and said, guys, to the organizers that we were meeting that night, he said, guys, what do you think we go to Sacramento and talk to the governor and tell him what's going on about the treatments and the strike? And we have the workers on strike, and nobody's picking grapes, and they refuse to meet with us. They don't answer our letters. They don't answer our phone calls, and they don't want to meet with us. Maybe the governor can do something. And I said, hell yeah, let's go to Sacramento. Let's go to Sacramento. We'll get all the strikers together, and we invite our friends to go with us, and we'll do a caravan to Sacramento. And here comes the bad news. No, guys, I wasn't talking about caravanning to Sacramento. He says, I'm talking about, he did this. Walking to Sacramento, marching to Sacramento. We said, what? Está loco este hombre. He wants us to walk to Sacramento? How far is it, you know? He said, guys, we can do it. We can do it. And that night, man, you know, he told us, think about it, guys, think about it. There were 20 of us organizers there. He said, think about it. And then we'll plan it some more. We'll talk some more about it. Sure enough, after he left, we talked about it and we started arguing against ourselves, you know, about, hey, it's impossible. We can't march to Sacramento. It's never been done before. Farm workers never marched to the state capitol to go fight for their rights. It's never been done before. So we made history. We're in the history books. So we had everybody on strike. Listen to this. We had everybody on strike 4 months after the strike started. 5,000 workers were on strike. Nobody was picking grapes. And they said, let's go talk to the governor. So when they planned the march, it was March 17th. What is March 17th to you guys? What do you know about March 17th? What day is that? St. Patrick's. St. Patrick's Day. To me, I don't remember St. Patrick's Day, that day. Every March 17th that comes along, all I remember is I was down on one knee tying my shoe to go to march, start marching. And you can see some of the pictures right there I brought. And we were blocked. We were stopped by the police in Delano. Just as we were just getting ready to go, boom, 30 policemen with riot gears, and they stopped us for 2-something hours. And they said, you can't march. You don't have a permit for this parade. Parade? This is not a parade, it's a march. Do you see any floats behind us? You know? And all of a sudden, they started moving out. What happened? I think Bobby Kennedy said something. Yeah, he called them. Bobby Kennedy was there during the hearings, and some hearings that were happening there. And he called them and told them, hey, if you don't let them out, let them go, you're going to see the biggest civil rights suit you ever seen in your life. And I think they started moving out, and here we go. We left. We left Delano on March 17, 1966. 1966. 58 years ago, we marched to Sacramento. 25 days we marched. 25 days, wow. 53 towns we passed through. 53 towns, and half of those we spent the night. And don't think that we had a bed every night, no. People would come out and help us. Yeah, I can take 1 or 2 or 3 people, okay. But most of us, we slept in the parks, alongside the road, any place that we put our sleeping bag, and we stayed there. And Ruth mentioned about blisters. Oh yeah, there were blisters. There were blisters galore. It's like a tsunami of blisters out there, you know? Cesar, he injured his ankle walking to Ducor, the first town that we stayed overnight. And I told him, Cesar, you don't have to march. Take off, don't worry. We need you when we get to Sacramento. He said, no, I have to march, I have to march. And he was out there limping. And he was out there walking with a cane. And every day he got better. He said, I don't need the cane no more. And he started walking better. He started marching. And that was great. That was good. But we had a lot of people coming to provide aids to us, bring us food, bring us shelter, you know, wherever we can sleep. Like in Ducor, the first town that we stopped by for the night, we slept in the man's front yard. He let us sleep there. You can stay here. You know, I'll take 3 inside, but the rest can stay here. And we slept out there in the grass. And that's the way it was happening all through the march. 25 days, 400 miles to reach Sacramento April 10th, 1966. And we made it. They mentioned there were 77 of us. Yes, we started with 77 of us. 77 took the pledge, and I was one of them. And Cesar told me, Roberto, I want you to be the captain. I want you to lead the march to Sacramento. I said, no, not me. No, get somebody else. No, I told them, they won't listen to me. Well, no, they will. I've seen you out there working, and they know you'll be a good one. So he put me in charge. So he put me as captain, el Capitan of the historic farm worker march from Delano to Sacramento. Also, for your information, again, I am one of the original striker, huelguista, chavista, huertista of the 1965 Delano grape strike. And we also went to the boycott. I went to Kansas City, Kansas. I never know what Kansas City was. But they told me, hey, you want to go to Kansas? Okay, I'll go. 3 days, it took me 3 days to get out there in an old car that we had. Me and my family, my wife and my 2 kids, we went to Kansas City, Kansas. Wow. When we got there, it was about 10 o'clock at night. And Cesar told us, when you get there, when you get your destination, give us a call back, collect call, and tell me you made it okay. So when I got there, remember those telephone booths? Those old ones? You don't see them anymore. I went to the telephone booth and I made a collect call. And it was way dark, and it was by the railroad tracks and all that. And I called, and he answered. Cesar answered. He was waiting for calls from people. He says, well, Cesar, we made it. We're here. We're in Kansas City, Kansas. Oh, good. Have you had a chance to stop the grapes? What? I just barely got here. I don't even know where I'm at, you know? Well, that's the way he was. He used to joke a lot, but he meant, you know, he was joking with us. He said, why don't you wait there? We're going to call the representative that's going to help you. So when a guy came over, he says, come on, let's go. Where? We'll go to the house. So they had a house for us already. So we can stay there for the night and stay there for as long as we can. So we were out there also picketing Safeway stores, Kroger stores, all those big market stores. Like Dolores said, stop eating grapes. Don't eat grapes from California. Don't eat grapes from California. But you know what, guys? I think that the march to Sacramento made the union what it is today. I think Cesar was recognized, Dolores was recognized because of the march we went to Sacramento. It was a historic march. We made history, and I think that opened that opened the gate, because it opened the eyes of the public about the farm workers. They saw the farm workers marching and said, who are they? Why are they marching? Where are they going? And people started, talking and hearing, and that's how they know. Hey, they're out there struggling. They're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for more money, for better wages, better treatments, better working conditions. And I think the march did a lot. And it was the first one in 1966. Thank you. And for you guys' information, I continue to do the work that Cesar left us. I even say every other day, I say, Cesar, you rest now. We got this. We'll do it from here on. We'll work on it. I made a promise to him that I will continue his legacy and the legacy of the farm workers. And we've been doing it in Tulare County. And I've been there since 29 years doing the marches every birthday for Cesar Chavez and the farm workers, and letting people know that, hey, we're still around. And we know that they mentioned about, hey, we got to continue. La lucha sigue. It's not over. We got a lot of new people working out there now in the fields. They're not the old ones that we were working with, Now they're the sons and daughters of the farm workers that we were dealing with. And now they're young people coming in, new people coming in, and they don't know about the union. They don't know about what's going on, what happened. Every time we mention Cesar Chavez, they say, oh yeah, I know him. The boxer? No. That's another Cesar Chavez,
I want to say I marched with Roberto Bustos last year. He was 80 years old, and he marched all the way from Farmersville to Visalia still, and he was holding his mouth.
Thank you, but don't mention my age, please.
Hey, well, we got somebody here raising the bar every day, so the queen right here.
So I want to thank you guys for inviting us, and also we can share some information with you guys, and hopefully you can help us also. Like they mentioned, hey, now it's up to you guys. We're going to be not around for, we don't know. Hey, you guys come on and take over. Pick up the torch and let's go. And let's fight for the farm workers. Thank you.
And now you guys are great. You stand here for la raza, así que gracias. Now we will have the pleasure to listen to Yolanda and probably listen one of the songs.
Okay.
You like to sing.
So I'm Yolanda Chacon, and as you can see, I'm the youngest here, but even I'm a senior citizen. So I was very fortunate to be raised in Delano, California, where my mother was a huelguista, a striker, and these were my teachers right here. And I have to tell you, there's somebody in the audience who is the Berkeley alumni. My cousin was the first to go to college, and he retired as an ALJ. Please stand up, Federico Chavez. He was also a lawyer when we were on boycott. He and his wife, Aggie Rose, and his daughter, Christina Chavez Johnson, is a doctor at La Clínica de la Raza. That's what the union produced. And also, we have Margot, the wife of Fred Ross Jr. Fred Ross Sr. was her father-in-law, the beginning of all of this, that taught us how to use our voice, how to take direct action, how to register voters, and how to vote.
Yeah.
Stand up, Margot. So, I want to wait. Dolores said that there's nothing more important than voting, but there is something that's equally important, belonging to a union. If you ever see the United Auto Workers or just come to a tentative agreement, the Writers Guild they came to an agreement. Workers' rights are so important. If you ever see a strike, stop, offer, take them water, walk with them. That's our future. I've been a labor organizer already. This year will be my 30th year in community organizing, and we talk about health. It was the union. Other than that, it was just our grandma's remedies. We couldn't afford to go to doctors. But we got a clinic. We had people volunteering their time. And that was the way that we were able to have health care because of the union. Otherwise, farm workers, you don't have enough money. Can you pay your bill, or are you going to take your kid to the doctor? You're going to buy water and food, right? Well, then we didn't buy water. We drank from the hose. But, you know, that is so important. So that's why labor unions are important. They have you safe working conditions and their health care and all the things that you can negotiate with a bargaining agreement. So that is what we learned in the union, the power of direct action, the power of using your voice, the power of voting. Because like they said, we had no friends in Congress. It was up to us, what we learned from Fred Ross Sr., to go register people to vote. Some people couldn't even vote, but they could go and talk to people and tell them why we needed to get people elected. We got people that looked like us, that understood our issues, that could represent us, and could vote for us on the floor, in the assembly floor, the Senate floor, and in the federal government, right? So we all must vote. And none of this, I'm a decline to state, I don't belong to a party. The party of the people is the Democratic Party. We fight for working people. Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed into law the Labor Relations Act, and it took us farm workers so many more years to get laws for farm workers. Yeah. I marched last year, and I want to tell you, I was visiting tomateros in Madera. They just had an election, and they won. They're the first to win from that bill. Thanks to all the people who supported, all the people who brought us food along the way, who gave us somewhere to stay. It's a unity. That's what you call solidarity. Everybody pitching in, everybody doing their part. We each one teach one, each one reach one. Caesar said, we don't need a perfect political system. We need perfect participation. So we want, if somebody calls you, get involved. Volunteer, do visibility, register people to vote. We are the ones who are important in making the decision about policies by electing the right people. When we don't get involved, we're victims and victimized. But we don't agonize, we organize, right? So like I said, I'm lucky. I was in the school of organizing with all of my heroes here, and then my neighbors, my friends, my family. My tia went to the boycott in Montreal, Canada with her new baby. They left the family. My cousin Freddie went to the boycott. His sister went to New York. People went all over the place. They didn't think twice. And you know, he said we lived on donations. I lived on those donations. And when I organized in Monterey, I met women from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, WILF. They said, we took clothes to Delano. I said, thank you. I was one of those children you clothed, right? So it's up to us. We are the family. We are the movement. The movement is not dead. Viva la causa, viva el pueblo unido, jamás será vencido. That is us. That is everybody in this room. And so I'm 64, but I'm not ready to retire, and I'm not tired. I'm going to be looking for all of you, and we're going to go out there and make it happen. And 2024, we're going to get a new president. We don't want no maggots or no MAGAs, so hey, it's up to us, right? ¿Se puede o no se puede? Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Gracias.
that a note, we talked about the farm workers going on strike, the farm workers doing the march, farm workers going to the boycott. But there were a lot of young people like yourselves, okay, volunteers that dropped out of college and they went to the boycott. And without them, it never would have happened because they went all over the United States. And I think we might have some in our audience tonight. Mary Lou Watson, are you here? Could you stand up for a minute, Mary Lou? Julie Greenfield, is Julie here?
Julie? Okay, there she is.
So they not only went to the boycott, Mary Lou went in a yellow school bus with no heat all the way from Delano to New York City. And when they got to New York City, they all got arrested for picketing at the food market there. And we had to get Senator Robert Kennedy to send his attorney down to get them out of jail. So Mary Lou and Juliet, they became jailbirds at a really early age, okay? Like many of the rest of us. So, I want to honor them for the work that they did, and they continue to support the farm workers, even though and I think Mary Lou became a carpenter, right? And one of the first women carpenters, how about that, everybody? One of the first women carpenters in California. And Julie and her sister Wendy actually built the clinic. They helped build a clinic in Delano, California, and that building is still there, by the way, still today. So many people contributed, and I'm sure that many of you, your parents, maybe and your grandparents also supported the farm worker movement and the boycott. So we owe it to many of you, but the example is there, and this is the example that we want to give to everybody, is that we can make things happen. We are so important to make these movements happen. And one of the things that Cesar used to say, I want to share it with you, he would say, when you go to school, like today, we're learning about history, right? And so you learn about history, you write about history, you talk about history, but guess what? When you all become activists, you are going to make history, okay?
Yeah.
You are going to make history. Think about that, because we have a lot of history to be made in our country, and you are the ones that are going to make it happen. We don't have a national health care in the United States of America, even though we're the richest country in the world. We don't have free college education for all of our young people, even though we're the richest country in the world. We don't have free daycare for our families, even though we're the richest country in the world. And the only way that we can get all of these things that are still lacking, we don't have peace. And the only way that we can make this happen is that you are the ones that are going to have to make it happen. So never think that you can't, because you can and you must, and I'm sure that you will. All of us working together, we can create peace. We have to do it through our democratic work that we do, our civic engagement, and not giving up. The other thing that Cesar will always say, the only time we lose is when we give up. Oh, and just one other note. There's one person that we haven't mentioned in this gathering, and that was our great Filipino organizer, Larry Itliong, okay? So Larry Itliong was right there with all of us, and Larry was from Stockton, California. That's where I started my activism, and the movement is in Stockton. I recruited Larry to be one of my organizers when we started the first group, the Agricultural Workers Association, and then Larry stayed there right to the very end. And then, when we joined,
Right.
when we did the UFW, Larry was right there with us. So we have to remember all of those great heroes that we have. Thank you.
We will have time right now for some questions to our distinguished panelists. Please, if you have a question and you don't have issues of mobility, you can come into the center and ask your question to our panelists.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, because you all went through so much hardship and so much struggle, so much oppression, what do you think gave you hope throughout it and to hope to continue, and what piece of advice would you give for, some of like the activists like myself and my colleagues here who are feeling hopeless in times like this? Thank you.
I would say don't agonize, organize, because we don't feel hopeless when we're talking to people about what we can do together. And I just want to introduce you guys to this young people. Stand up, please, in the front row. They're from a small town called in Poplar. It's in the Central Valley. Many of them are in high school, but they're out there knocking on doors and helping their communities. So we don't have time to feel hopeless and helpless, because we have to make a difference. It's up to us to lift our communities and to help support the next generation coming behind us, right? And I just want to show you this shirt I'm wearing. This woman, Doña Josefina Flores, was shot 7 times in the fields. She was a striker by goons when we were all in violence. She stood with the union. She was one of the 3 musketeers with Ruth and Doña Carolina. Every march, every action, every picket, they were there. They never had a chance to feel hopeless because they were out there helping or talking to legislators and telling their story. If we're not at the table telling our story, our voices won't be heard. So that's what you have to remember. You stand on the shoulders of greatness, our ancestors. We did not die in the genocide. We're here for a purpose. Find your purpose, find your voice. You got the power.
We know that there's a lot of things happening right now out in the world. With legislation, it's really important that we find out what's happening up in Sacramento, what's happening in the Congress. And it doesn't take a lot of time to send an email to your congressperson. And if you have relatives in other states like Texas or some of these places in the South where you have all of these terrible laws that are being passed right now, to get people on board. There's one law in particular right now that is right now stuck in the Congress, and that's the Equal Rights Amendment for women. How many of us know that we are one of the few countries in the world, the United States, that has not ratified the Equal Rights Amendment for women? It's got to be in our Constitution, folks. Now, we know this current Congress is pretty messed up right now. But for the next Congress, and again, I'm going to go back and also like Yolanda, my buddy here, about voting to make sure so that we can get that Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution of the United States of America, folks. Ya es tiempo, it's time, right? That women had their equal rights put into the Constitution. And then, stay on top of what's happening in Sacramento. I don't know how many of you know, but we were able to, in the last session of the legislature, and it's going to be going into effect in 2024, all undocumented people in California will have the right to California's healthcare system. Healthcare system, okay? We got that by getting good people elected and so many things. The student loan thing is something really important for all students that, as I said before, we've got to fight for free college education in our. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime, but it can happen in your lifetime. Right. We got to keep our eye on the prize and see what's going on. Right. We got to stop the fascism, as I said before. It's here, and we have to stop it.
Right. Thank you. Another question?
I'm going to ask one. I was privileged enough to be in a bus with you, Dolores, and the Attorney General Rabanta when we were leaving Poplar to head to Delano for celebration of the Larry Young Day. And the Attorney General Rabanta turned around and asked you a question. He said, Dolores, why didn't you run for public office? And you responded, why? I have the best job ever. Can you talk about that?
Well, my job is to organize. I'm like with John Lewis, make good trouble, okay? And so my job is just to try to get people motivated to become activists, and to become organizers, because all of us, we have so much power that we have. And sometimes we all know somebody that needs to be educated on the issue of women's reproductive rights, right? We know somebody that needs to be educated on the issue of LGBTQ rights. You know? We have people that we know that are still controlled by maybe some colonial history that they have, so they're racist or whatever. So, you know, we have to work to get rid of the racism, this machismo, the sexism, you know, the homophobia in our society, and we have to promote peace and promote nonviolence, and not only nonviolence in terms of actions, of physical actions, but nonviolence in terms of the words that people say and the words that people speak about each other. All of us have to become devotees of Gandhi, you know, to go out there and say we can win through nonviolence. We have an army right here, sitting right here, an army of organizers, an army of volunteers to spread that message out there, the message of peace and justice and respect for each other, no? Respect for other people's rights. But we can make it, you don't have to wait for somebody to come and say, we want you to be an organizer, right? Yeah, just think about yourselves and how many people you can reach, how many people you can touch by just saying, we have the power to make these things happen. We could create this world that we can have with peace and justice. And I do want to share one other little tidbit. Coretta Scott King, whom I was able to travel with during the boycott, she said, we will never have peace in the world until women take power. But I changed that to say we will never have peace until feminists take power, because we know not all women are feminists, but there are many men that really support women's rights, and so we know that they are feminists also, okay? Let's give them a big applause, all the feminist men in the room. Oh, one other thing I do have to share, and I do this in every talk that I do, to remind people that we are one human race. We are one human race, and our human race came from Africa. So we are all Africans of different shades and colors. And so I like to ask people in the room, take the hand of the person next to you, take the hand of the person next to you, and say to that person, everybody, take your hand, okay? Turn to that person and say, hello, relative. So if we can remember that we are one human race, okay? We are one human race. We are all related, and our purpose is to protect and take care of each other, to protect each other, and to share what we have with each other, because that is how we survived on planet Earth. And we could remember that and work together to create that equity that we're looking for.
Another question?
Hello, it's great hearing all of you talk today. As a Filipino American, I just want to say thank you again for bringing up Larry Itliong, especially during the month of October, our Heritage Month. My question is also as someone from Texas, where all these politics is you talk about. If someone feels alone or isolated in their beliefs and they know that something is wrong, but they feel like they're by themselves, what would you say they should look for or find within themselves to speak up and start that wave of change that they know needs to happen? Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think the way that we change Texas is all of us have got to go to Texas, okay? No, I'm serious. I think we have to do Freedom Summer in Texas, you know, like they did during the Civil Rights Movement when young people went down into the South. Over 50% of the people in Texas are Latinos, okay?
Yeah.
And if you add other people of color to that, it's probably over 70%. But we know that they have made voting rules very difficult in Texas, but I actually think that we could succeed in Texas. But again, we have to let people out there in Texas know not to be afraid, that they have to get out there. They've got to get out there and convince people that they have to register to vote. If we can get 2 more senators into our U.S. Senate, then we can get another immigration reform. We can get another amnesty law passed like we did in 1986, where people can then become legal residents of the United States of America and citizens, you know. So we have a lot of, I want to call it peace work that we have to do in our country right now, and it's going to be up to all of us to make that happen.
Thank you.
I'd just like to, I'd like to introduce another group that is coming up, and they're going to be dedicating themselves and bringing justice into Tulare County, and also helping with our 29th, again, celebration event. I'm talking about the Machistas from Tulare County, Visalia, California.
Wow.
Please stand up.
Central Valley in the house.
The next generation of fighters.
Awesome.
We have time for 3 more questions.
I just want to say something. Dolores, are you sure she wasn't talking about when you said you didn't run for office because you had the best job, that it's not getting them in and then taking them out? With organizing, you take them out?
That's right.
No warranty.
Hello, thank you all so much. My name's Carissa. I'm a student in the School of Public Health, and I'm a physician who is actually working to protect farm worker health. I was wondering, I've broken the microphone, if you all could talk a little bit about sort of the inherent hierarchies that exist within the farm worker community. I think of documentation status, I think of prejudices against indigenous Mexicans, and I was wondering if you could talk about how the unions can play a role in sort of dismantling those hierarchies.
Well, I would like to say that as a union organizer, any member who's working and there's a union contract, if they're working, you cannot then flag them and say, oh, their Social Security didn't match. You hired them. So if you hired them knowing it, now you have the repercussion as an employer. But also, I'm on a board, like I said, of clinics. We have 38 healthcare clinics in 4 counties, and mostly in small towns, like rural communities where farm workers are. We don't turn anyone away regardless of their immigration status or their ability to pay. And we help them fill out if they qualify for whatever programs, but we have sliding scale, or if they're indigent, we still take them, because we know farm worker health care is so important, and we need to educate our own family and friends that farm workers not taking anything from us. They pay into the Social Security and into services that they do not receive because they're not citizens, right? So it's really up to us. And I was gonna ask if everyone here, you know, election, the primary will be March 5th of 24, and the general election will be November 5th of 24. But the ballots all come in the mail now, right? Motor voter, all come in the mail a month before, 30 days beforehand. We should be talking to our friends and our neighbors. Did you vote? Do you need help? A lot of people don't vote, not because they don't care, because they aren't educated in their own countries. They're so busy working, or it's very complicated, even all those messaging and mixed messaging and commercials. And then when they say right to work, they don't say right to work for less without a union, right? It's all those misnomers. So people are confused. Imagine people like us who really know what's going on, and it's confusing. So that is what I wanted to ask. If everyone can do our part by talking to somebody else, registering somebody, you know, start a club. Because if you want to get debt forgiveness for student loans or higher education, and so that we can push and support for immigration rights and immigration reform, it's up to us to make that movement and keep it going. And so that's how we're gonna change, you know, the atmosphere and the rights for farm workers and for students, for DACA students, or dreamers. We need to help make that come true. Dolores and the farm workers did it with the amnesty back in the day, and many families aprovecharon, they took advantage of that opportunity, but we need to make sure that that opportunity is there again. And it's only gonna come by the policy, political process, and getting the right people elected. So no more, none of this, I don't belong to any party. You gotta belong to the party of the people. I think that's the answer of changing the atmosphere.
Hello, thank you guys so much for your time and everything that you've shared. just a quick question. I come from an immigrant family who came here to America when I was just 3 years old. We came here because of my disabled sister, my older sister, and for the reason being that we wanted better healthcare access for her. Unfortunately, she passed away when I was 12 years old, and last year my mom passed away from COVID. When we were talking about COVID, my mother and I always had this thing where I would pressure her to get vaccinated, and I told her she had to do it for the betterment of her health, and she always told me, well, we'll do whatever God says, right? And that was kind of her saying. Basically, my question is, how would you frame the framework of, or change the framework of Hispanic and Black communities in access to healthcare? Many people feel afraid to access healthcare because of the historical context. For example, the Tuskegee experiment that intentionally vilified communities, African American communities, and exposed them to serious risks without proper healthcare. When we think about it now, how can we talk to our community and inspire them to take care of themselves for themselves and not for any other reason?
Well, I could say that my organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we actually go door to door to inform people about healthcare issues. Our organization has vaccinated close to 12,000 people in the Central Valley against COVID. And there was a lot of misinformation, as you know. People were told a lot of lies, and a lot of people were afraid. They were afraid to get the vaccinations. So we had to work very hard. And even today, right now, as we're speaking here, we have canvassers that are going door to door, and we're doing it all over the Central Valley, actually starting with the Antelope Valley up there by Mojave and Kern, Tulare, and Fresno counties, informing people. And we want to continue this. We didn't start out this way. We just started doing community organizing, but we do have all of these healthcare issues, and we have had some of our chapters where we've had people talk about diabetes, for instance. And we're going to keep working on the healthcare issues in addition to the other programs that we have, our civic engagement program, our youth program, the environmental issues that we work on. We're going to continue working on health because we know that because our communities are often not informed. Even diabetes, which is a big, big issue in the Latino and the Black community, that this can be stopped, It can be reversed if people just learn about the right way to eat. But it takes a lot of work because people, the food is cultural, and sometimes the food that people are used to eating is not bad for the system, it's not good for the system. So we just have a lot of work to do. And we don't have, again, there's not enough money or resources that have been dedicated to communities of color. As you all know, there's a study right now showing that Black women and Latino women right now are more susceptible to dying at birth, when they're giving birth. So we've got to just keep pressuring to make sure we have more resources to come into. My oldest son, by the way, is a doctor, Dr. Huerta, and I have 3 members of my family that are nurses also. And oh, by the way, we need more Latinos to go into healthcare, okay? Because the number of doctors and nurses that are bilingual, and teachers, by the way. So, I mean, there are so many opportunities that are open out there for people that want to help people that are not getting the help that they need.
Hi, I couldn't resist.
Also, I just wanted to say to that is that it is the community organizations like the Dolores Huerta Foundation, the Larry Itliong Center, the Delano Guardians, community organizations that the community trust, and they'll come to their door. The Larry Itliong Center had street medicine where doctors came to the center, and the neighbors in the community would come who are already familiar. So it's also bringing healthcare to the community, to organizations where they trust, and they won't feel that they're guinea pigs, but they will get the information in their language, and so that they can understand, right? Having the right messengers delivering those messages.
I'm Chrissy Chavez Johnson. I'm a physician.
My cousin.
Hi. I work at La Clinica, which is in Oakland, on International between 10th and 11th. And we have vaccinated a lot of Latinos and everybody else. And I just want to say what was talked about earlier, education. We need more Latina doctors. We need more Latino doctors. We need more Black doctors. We have to convince our children to go into medicine. It is not easy. It is not cheap, but it has to be done. And I promise you that I convinced more people, probably just by the way I look, to get a vaccine, because I said, look, I'm giving it to my children. I got the vaccine. I'm a doctor. I'm telling you that this is something that's going to help our community. We need this. But it wasn't as easy for my colleagues who don't look like the people that they're serving. And I'm so glad they're there. They're equally important, but we also need more people who look like us.
Thank you, Dr. Chrissy Chavez Johnson. Clínica de la Raza in the house.
We didn't mention that Chrissy's grandfather and her dad, Freddie Chavez, who's in our audience, Richard Chavez, is the one that designed the eagle, everybody. You know that eagle on the farmworker flag? That's Freddie's dad that did that, and Chrissy's grandpa.
Hello, y'all. My name is Iliana, and I am also a fellow Tejana, so shout out to y'all. I come up here with my grandparents in my heart. My grandmother, who organized in Stockton with UFW her entire life, and my other grandfather, who also was a field worker his entire life. I come up here to ask, what role did cross-movement solidarity play in the longevity of the UFW and the movements that y'all funded throughout the years? Cross-movement solidarity, so
The cross-movement solidarity, we had Jewish people that came, made their life, married farm workers. People came to help us, and they stayed. They became part of the family, part of a movement, a bigger movement than just, we weren't just here, it was larger. Like I like to say that Martin Luther King was having their civil rights movement. This was our civil rights movement. This is what got us equal opportunity and got us, like Dolores said, the unemployment for farm workers, you know, and in Spanish, and taking the test for driver's license. That's what the union was. It opened doors so that you and we could all be where we're at here today, so that we could have people, doctors that do look like us, judges that do look like us, and understand. Because when people don't even understand an inference that you're trying to explain something, and maybe you used your, porque no sabías la palabra en inglés, lo dijiste, but if they're your culture, your language, they can understand. And that's why it's so important that so many of you in these halls here continue that legacy, whatever your purpose, whatever your mission, that I think that's what we're all here for. And the cross movement, people supported each other. The union, the UAW, Walter Reuther came to Delano, you know, and gave us money to help the farm workers that were on strike, our parents. You know, they supported us in different ways. And like when we went to other cities to be on the boycott, they housed us. So that cross movement was the glue that helped us, because we couldn't win with the strike breakers. And every time they bring buses and buses and buses of more workers. And just like you said, even though we went to Sacramento, we've gone 3 times, 66, 94, and just this last year. And like we said, esta marcha no es de fiesta, es de lucha y protesta, right? We're not having fun. It's not a party. We're out there making changes. So that cross, and we saw people of every color, every race that was there supporting, because they believe in social justice. So, you know, like she said, we make good trouble, so we stand together with our brothers and sisters, and whoever's under attack, an injustice to one is an injustice to all. So we have to remember that solidarity is very important. We believe in solidarity forever.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to wait to be invited, okay? If you see a picket line out there, like the hotel workers, yeah, go join them. Just say, I want to march with you. You know, don't wait to be invited. You know, we have a lot of causes that are out there, a lot of organizations that are doing good work. Don't wait to be invited, volunteer. You know, we talked a lot about the election, so I'm going to, and I know Yolanda and Roberto and Ruth agree with me, for the elections, volunteer to go out there and campaign to go out there door to door. It's a learning experience. I call it organizing 101, okay? I'll tell you why. Because when you're out there canvassing, You're going to a door, you're knocking on the door, you're asking people to vote, and you don't know who you're talking to, right? I mean, these are strangers. And what happens is it builds up your emotional fortitude, okay? It builds up your muscles, your organizing muscles. And at the same time that you're talking to them and getting them to engage in voting, you're making them strong too. So it's like a double energy force that's out there, this force for democracy. You know, when the great Fred Ross Sr., and I know Margot is here with us, Fred Ross Jr.'s widow, when I learned that this is the way you make changes, just to get people to vote, to get good people elected, I thought I had found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I thought, this is it? This is how you make it happen? You know, and I got so inspired that to this day, I'm doing it, you know? I'm not quitting. People say, why don't you retire? I can't, because we have to get more people engaged. We have to get more people organized. And so we want you to join that movement. It's a freedom movement, literally. It's a freedom movement, getting out there and getting people engaged. And again, as activists, what do? We make history, right? And there's a lot of history to be made, and you are the ones that are going to make that history.
I tell people we go to doors to bring hope, inspiration, and empowerment. That's what we do. We go to doors. We bring hope, inspiration, and empowerment. Remember that.
I wanted to say before the next question is one thing. We need people, we need more professionals in these countries, Latinos, like they said, but we need people that believe in the people that they have to serve, no believe in themselves. We need to also, Yolanda said that many Jewish people came here and they live and they become citizens. Well, the Palestinian people came here and they live here and they are suffering too. And we need to be at front. We need organized and, like I said, crossing we cannot have only one cause. We are multitasking here in Berkeley, and our life had to be multitasking for all the people and for all the cause that we believe. But the most important thing, if you get a professional, being Latino, you have to believe in the people that you help. You have to respect them, and you have to believe that health, no health care, but the health as a whole of the whole people is important and is related to each moment of our life. It's not something isolated. Health is part of our life and the life of the community and the life of the world. We need to fight for that from every profession here, okay? And then, sorry to take this time.
I just want to say, is that a little loud? It's an absolute honor to be able to speak to each one of you on the panel today. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is William Hatch. I'm a first year here at Berkeley. It's surreal. Dolores, my grandfather, Hector Cepeda, he was a part of the ILWU, and he knew you. I never got to meet him, but you did. And it's just so culturally significant that I get to share that bond, and there's that love within the family, and my mother was able to tell me the stories of all the marches that you guys participated in, and the crossover, and it's just amazing to be able to speak to all of you today.
Great. Thank you.
My question today is, what was the most difficult part of organizing the United Farm Workers, and what do you think is the most important issue facing farm workers today?
I think the most important issue that we have, and that's not only with farm workers, I think it's with our whole country, is that we've got all of these powerful corporations that kind of control our government. And I'm just going to give an example. We know everybody's mad about the gas prices, gasoline prices going up, right? Everybody's upset about that. And so they get mad at the president, President Biden. Well, you know what? He doesn't have any control over the gas prices, okay? Yeah, but the corporations have control over gas prices, food prices, inflation. They're the ones that are raising the prices to make more profits. And this is something that we have to think about in the future of, other countries. I'm going to mention a country, Norway. Norway, they own their oil. And so what do they have? They have, again, free education, free health care for everybody, the things I talked about, free daycare for everybody. And I don't know how in our country we gave private corporations the right to own our national resources. How did that happen? How did that happen? Our utilities, PG&E is a private corporation. A lot of the gas companies are private corporations. Somehow we got to figure out how can we change this, because we're never going to have enough money for the things that we need, and we can just look at the results of that. Homeless people on the streets, okay? People that cannot afford to pay rent, cannot afford to pay gasoline, et cetera. So our capitalistic system is not working. It's not working. It's not working for poor people. And so these are things that in the future that you all have to look at. And the only way that we can change this again is by making sure that we elect people to the Congress to start changing some of these things. I don't know what it's going to be like for your children and your grandchildren if we don't start looking at some of these systems, that we have to change in the United States of America. I remember you're from Venezuela. Yeah. When Hugo Chavez, he said, he got in trouble with the United States of America because he said the petroleum in Venezuela belongs to the people of Venezuela. And he kicked out all of the oil companies from Venezuela,
Yeah, I had to say
And
yes.
of course, then the United States didn't like Hugo Chavez, right? They didn't like Fidel Castro because in Cuba, and I'm sure some of you have been to Cuba, that in Cuba, even though it's a really small country with an economic boycott, people have free health care and they have free college education. If you want to become a doctor, you can go to Cuba and become a doctor, okay? Today, And and then again in the U.S., we have an economic boycott on Cuba, and it should be lifted, And all of our policies that we have. Now, I'm going to mention one more. We think about all of the people that are at our borders trying to get asylum. A lot of those people come from Guatemala, come from El Salvador. Think of all of the bananas that we eat every single day. Does the money go to the people in Guatemala or El Salvador? No, it goes Chiquita banana. It goes to Dole banana. If the money that we spend for coffee and bananas would go to the people that produce the bananas, there wouldn't be any poverty there. We have to look at our foreign policies of the United States of America. And that's going to be the work that you all are going to have to do, because myself and Robert and Ruth here, we're kind of on our way out, okay? Although we're going to keep fighting till the last minute, but that is your work that you have to do. And to do that, you've got to be informed, you've got to stay on top of things, and again, get in there. And some of you have to think of running for office also, okay? Think of that.
Last question.
Okay, hi. I'm Mateo Adrian Fernandez. I use he, they pronouns. I'm here with COS Mecha. And my question is something I was actually asked earlier today. So I have my own thoughts, but I want to hear y'all's. Is how do you keep going with the threat of violence all around you? How do you keep fighting against something when people are so open about their hate? And for example, like when you were marching, you have those blisters. You know that's going to happen when you're marching for so long. You know that heat exhaustion is a thing that could happen. And how do you keep yourself going, especially when fear for some people is a physical thing where you just can't get yourself to do something? What's something that keeps y'all going through that?
Well, we can't let fear stop us. I was beaten up by the police in San Francisco and almost lost my life. And we know that other people But that doesn't mean that we can't let fear stop us, okay? We can't let fear stop us. I have been to jail many times, as many of you know. Oh, by the way, there's a really good documentary. I'm going to promote it. It's called Dolores. Yeah, it was produced by Carlos Santana, and Peter Bratt from San Francisco was the director with his brother Benjamin Bratt. But you'll see a lot of you'll see the scene in that where I was beaten up by the police, you know. You're going to see the scenes of Roberto marching to Sacramento. You know, so you're going to see a lot of the history of the farm worker struggle in that movie. But yeah, we have to, promote nonviolence. And by the way, the Senate of California just passed a law that they're going to start teaching nonviolence in all of our public schools, okay? In all of our public schools in California. So things are happening right now. And so, we have to just keep positive, like Yolanda said earlier. We can't let the negative things bring us down. We can't do that. We just keep positive, and we know that, because, we're the majority, right? All of us are the majority, and as long as we keep working for peace and not let the MAGAs or the terrorists or the haters, all those haters out there, we can't let them deter us or bring us down, because we outnumber them. We outnumber them, and yeah, so we will win. At the end, as Caesar would say, we will win.
I want to say something. We're not superheroes. Sometimes you feel the fear. You feel the fear, but you do it anyway. And then you think, my ancestors are behind me. And when you stand shoulder to shoulder in concerted activity, there's strength in numbers. That's what solidarity is all about. Standing together, shoulder to shoulder with others. So that's how you're going to overcome. You overcome that fear.
Well, we got to an important part of our event. Now I will let you in the company of Charles Briggs, Professor Charles Briggs, and he will present our postdoc. I won't say anything else. Give the word to Charles Briggs.
And we sing and we chant, and all those things help us gain strength. And we fast too.
So I get to introduce Carolina Talavera. She received her BA from UC Santa Cruz. She worked in public health along the border. She then received a master's in medical anthropology from University College London, and she got a PhD in medical anthropology from UC Berkeley in August of 2023. Congratulations. She wrote a dissertation on how in the United Kingdom, and especially in the London area boroughs, condemn poor residents, especially migrants, to live for years and sometimes decades in housing situations marked not only by their appalling inadequacy, by the threat that they might be thrown out any day. Does that sound familiar? She is beginning a brilliant career, and she is spending the first year of it working with the Center for the Critical Study of Latinx Health, and made so much of this possible. I heard a rumor that maybe she comes from a family whose members are dedicated to supporting Latinx health. I heard a rumor that her mother might be here. Please, could you stand up? Thank you. Thank you for supporting her. Thank you. So, I present to you Carolina Talavera.
Thank you. Just want to first say that I'm so honored to be here today amongst all of you. My uncle was a community organizer, and he took my dad to the pickets by the groceries, and they would hand out flyers. And he asked someone in the movement, as he was starting college, what should I do? And they said to him, become a doctor, and he did. And so I'm part of this legacy, and so I'm so honored to be here. So I have the honor of introducing our team. And one of the central pillars of our work here at the Center for the Critical Study of the Health of Latinx communities is to provide opportunities and inspire the next generation of Latinx change makers. For this reason, we would like to take a minute to recognize our team of undergraduate research assistants. Their dedication and support to this project have made today's event possible. So I'm pleased to present Anaí Ramos. Diego Montesinos, our photographer. Nancy Garcia. Where's Nancy? Miriam Espinosa. Jimena Romano Silva. Anaís Roata. Cynthia Solorio Gaitán. And Sofia Perez. So can we just give our group a round of applause? So, our guiding mantra in dreaming and making this event possible has been honor our elders. And for this reason, it was important that we take this opportunity to recognize the achievements of our honored guests, their ongoing commitment to fighting for justice and equity for our community. The work of social justice is, in my opinion, as much a struggle fought through blood, sweat, and tears as it is in laughter and love. Love of community and bonded through solidarity. It is, in other words, a labor of love. So in recognition of their role in paving the way for the next generation of community organizers, we are honored to present you all with a humble award, a recognition of your contribution. So we'd like to invite everyone on stage. So you guys, yeah. You have to hand them out. You have to take them out. Take them out and then. So first, our honored guest, Dolores Huerta. Oh, by Nancy. If I could just borrow this plaque for a second. These awards are in recognition of outstanding activism in labor and health. Ruth Martinez. Roberto Bustos.
Wow, thank you.
And Yolanda Chacon-Serna. We also have two more awards to recognize two important organizations that are here with us today from the Central Valley. First, the Central Valley Empowerment Alliance is a grassroots community development organization that aims to address economic and educational disparities, advocate for affordable housing, and empower underserved communities in the Central Valley. They actively empower youth and rural populations to become leaders, advocates, and catalysts for change. Their accomplishments range from civic engagement initiatives to voter registration drives and so much more. They stand as a beacon of hope for a more just and empowered future. So we'd like to recognize the Central Valley Empowerment Alliance. Oh, Yolanda.
¡Sí se puede!
Next, we would like to honor the work of Campesinas Unidas del Valle de San Joaquin, which is a nonprofit organization born from the collective aspirations of farm-working women who share a common goal to empower and uplift women. by offering educational resources, home-based workshops, and vital support within their local community. They actively equip women with the knowledge and skills essential for leading healthy and empowered lives. Campesinas Unidas del Valle de San Joaquin takes a leading role in advancing gender equality while fostering a stronger, more resilient, and informed community of female agricultural workers. So we would like to recognize your work here today. Thank you. Can we just have a round of applause for everyone again?
Thank you. Thank you.
We also wanted to do one more reconocimiento. Lupe Martinez supposed to be here. People from the Valle know him, and he is an organizer. He worked with Cesar Chavez. He unfortunately couldn't be because at the last time, COVID retained him in his house. We will give a round of applause, and someone will symbolically give her reconocimiento. This is for Lupe Martinez. Okay, folks, this has been amazing. You know, I was really in fears all the day. I didn't know how this event will turn out, and you make me feel that we did, all the people, the panelists, all the people put so much in this event. I wanted to say thank you, and also I wanted to say thank you to you from the bottom of my heart. That's a part of the song that I know. That's why I say it well. And I wanted to say thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Could we end with a chant? Could we end with a chant?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's do that. Okay, I would like to ask everybody to stand up for a minute. Okay? Not you. Quédate sentada. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna ask you all two questions. I know you know the answers. Okay. And when we think about the answers that you give, I want you to shout them out really loud so all the haters can hear us. Okay. All the neo-Nazis, all the fascists out there. Okay. And so I'm gonna ask you two questions, and wait for me before you answer. The first question is, I'm going to ask you who's got the power. Hold on. Let's do it all together. Let's do it all together. Okay, I'm going to ask you who's got the power. I want you to say, we've got the power. And the second one is, what kind of power? I want you to say, people power. But I want you to shout it so loud, so like I said, all of those MAGA people can hear us, okay? Let's go. Who's got the power?
We got the power!
Okay, let's do that one more time. Some people aren't sure. Okay, otra vez, one more time. Who's got the power?
We got the power!
What kind of power?
People power!
So are we going to use our people power to bring equity, to bring social justice, to bring economic justice to everybody? What do we say? ¿Se puede?
Sí se puede!
¿Se puede?
Sí se puede!
Okay, let's all do it together with an organized hand clap. Let's go. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
¡Viva César Chávez!
Viva Fred Ross!
Viva!
Viva Richard Chavez!
Viva!
Viva Larry Igliong!
Viva!
Viva all of you out there. Thank you for having us.
Viva!
Viva!